So today I'm going to give you a different video than I've given you before. Someone very specifically asked me, one of my subscribers specifically asked me to go through this video and like react to it. And then that's exactly what I'll do. I've watched this video and then it's a very interesting video overall. I agree with a lot of their research. And then I have my own viewpoints and then disagreements in some of the areas. And then so I think this is a good video overall to understand that there is like disagreement with AI researchers on some of these deep areas, right? My opinion on areas that are unexplored are my opinions, just like everyone else's, right? And I think that's the bottom line to dig into within this. And a lot of AI is digging into these unexplored areas. And then this is a really good video to frame all of these things around overall. And I really like this video overall. It's called Thermodynamic Accelerated Computing. Let's dive into it, and then I'll react to it as we go.
There's been all sorts of speculation about what we're doing, and we've been pretty cagey to build a head start. But now we're pretty confident that we could be a bit more open over time, and hopefully we can just get the community excited about this and to build on this new paradigm. So, I mean, some of you may have seen some part of this talk, but the last part is newer. So, as we know, generative AI is eating the world. Parameter models just keep getting bigger and bigger. The demand for AI compute is scaling at a pace that's like far outpacing Moore's law. Something has to change, something has to give. Right now, as we know, like scaling laws, like you could just keep using more compute, keep using more data, and the performance is just going to get better.
So right here, this is a major disagreement I have with this particular statement. To me, like this particular statement here has been proven definitively false. And I think to me, it's the same as Moore's law, which he dives into here, right? It used to be thought that like Moore's law was infinite, right? Like, will Moore's law end? And then we reached the point, yes, there is an end to Moore's law, right? Moore's law is in fact not infinite. There's no compute law that has ever been created where you have infinite scaling compute. It's always a curve, and it's always a curve that flattens, right? And we're already at the flattening of that curve, where it's essentially you need progressively more and more data, more and more compute, and more energy to achieve the same result, right? Like, it's not just like doubling every single time. That's not how the equation works out. So I think up front, like this framing of here, I disagree with this overall. So just pointing that out.
And that's kind of driving energy demand through the roof. People are building nuclear reactors to try to power AI supercomputers, and they think we're just going to build bigger supercomputers with more GPUs and more nuclear reactors, and this is going to be the way forward to scale AI to beyond human level AI.
So I do agree with him that that is the thought that there is a thought that you can just scale infinitely to AGI, right? And it's not true that you can't do that.
Unfortunately, right? Like, we can't just scale down our compute. We can't just densify compute with traditional approaches. So unfortunately, it's the end of Moore's law, however you cut it, for deterministic computation.
And I agree with this, that like this Moore's law wall is coming and has been coming overall. And then so the Moore's law wall is very specifically with regards towards hardware and as pointed out here, shrinking of hardware compute. And then so overall, like I agree with this framing within this, this is the.
And fundamentally, that's because as you try to make your transistors smaller or use less charge, less power, you get into a regime where there's sort of jitter, like with your signal, right? Essentially, there's so few electrons, they start hopping across the transistor, and that's a problem. It makes your electronics sort of stochastic or random, right? Your transistors, sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off, and that's a problem for classical computing architecture. So we basically are fucked in the mid 2030s. We're going to hit a sort of wall. That's the thermal wall. And so we got to do something. But there is hope because there exists a sort of very stochastic computer out there that's very performant for AI and also.
And then so that's all known. This is all part of the equation. And then so like the way that I look at this overall, like this equation is 100% known across the board, right? Like we are facing this equation, and this is a bottleneck that is a human-wide bottleneck. And then what he's going to go into next is something that I've gone to a lot within this channel over and over again. I'm not the only one that says this, obviously, which is that I know that it's possible to scale down from where we're at very significantly because I have a prototype as an engineer that I know is definitively better than what exists, like by magnitudes that are indescribable.
Sorts of algorithms that's very energy efficient, and that's our brains. And our brains, they're running a 100 trillion parameter model, and they're only using like 20 watts. And you compare that to GPUs, they're about 100 million times denser and more, 100 million times more energy efficient. And so, the idea is, if we engineered a computational system from first principles for AI, inspired from biology, how do we take inspiration from biology? You don't try to mimic biology directly. You don't try to do biomimicry. You wouldn't build a plane that flaps its wings. You'd understand the principles that biology has learned to harness, and essentially you'd harness those principles directly with an artificially engineered device. And so that's what we're doing with sort of a type of physics called stochastic thermodynamics. So this isn't like your great grandfather's thermodynamics. It's a really recent theory. The core theorems are like 1999. It's as old as Google. When math is as old as Google, it's really young. And that's why people don't really know about this type of physics and this type of math, and that's why I schizo out on Twitter about it, because I want to kind of spread the message. But really, at the large scale, things are classical, they're deterministic. You have, Newtonian physics, you have like ballistics, or in the cases you have very strong signals, your computer is in a deterministic state. If you go to very low power and very low temperatures or very small timescales, things are quantum. They're in superpositions. There's sort of quantum interference happening, and you can make all sorts of analog quantum experiments, or you could build a quantum computer out of that type of physics.
So I want to stop it here because this is another point where I have a slight point of disagreement here, and then this is so what he's going into here, and at this point, is 100% uncharted and brand new territory, right? As he pointed out, it's brand new math, brand new physics. We're talking about 25-year-old physics or less. So physics that is up for debate and is still up, like very much up for discussion, right? No one has unified physics overall. So at the point where no one has unified physics, no one has proven these things out 100%, right? So it is all conjecture. He's conjecturing, I'm conjecturing, everyone is conjecturing within this. And then, but so to me, this equation has been looked at for, let's call it 100 years now, right? So quantum physics is almost 100 years old. It's like 80 to 90 years old, generally speaking. And then so within that and that time frame, it's been framed and classified under the framing that this gentleman just laid it out in, which is that it's with regards towards the very small and the very large, as well as temperature, right? And then so all of that boils down to thermodynamics, which is a very important aspect of and a known aspect of quantum physics overall. But what my research shows, and the tree that I'm going down, and my research and my contributions, honestly, overall within this, and kind of my track with this, is that route, the traditional route that as it's laid out, is barking up the wrong tree. And then it's very specifically, he notes it, looking at the very small and the very large, and then the very hot and the very cold, right? And those are the known realms. But to me, we're looking at, when you're looking at those things and looking at those realms, you're looking at the byproduct, the abstraction layer, not the actual layer. And then so what would be the actual layer then, Einstein? The actual layer would be, in that instance, dimensionality. And then so to me, I think that the differentiation is very specifically dimensions, right? Think of a dimension like a box. So if you have 0 dimensions, there's no box. 1 dimension is 1 box. 2 dimensions is 2 boxes stacked on top of each other. 3 boxes is 3 boxes stacked on top of each other. We operate within, we'll call it a 3D universe, right? A 3D or a 4D universe, which would be 3 to 4 boxes stacked on top of each other. 3 to 4 boxes stacked on top of each other create relativistic physics within the box, within the boxes that can be within that, right? But then there is a physics that exists absent that, absent the 4 boxes, and that would be an absent boxes period, which would be quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which would be 0 dimensions. And then so these are the effects of this can be noted and observed when you look at the very small, the very large, the very hot, and the very cold. But like all of that, again, is just a byproduct of dimensionality, of treating these actual dimensions like space. It's like box, like think of them like literally like a box, and stacking the boxes into each other. And to me, that's dimensionality and quantum mechanics overall. And that's very important, and I'll dive deeper into that.
But if you have a mesoscale computer, or a mesoscale system, basically it's jittering, right? So it's more like chemistry or molecular dynamics or the physics of gases sloshing around, and it's essentially stochastic. So there's some randomness to the dynamics and there's some randomness to the state at all times. And so basically there's an opportunity to build a computer that operates in this mesoscale, right? A computer that has a probabilistic state, that has programmable probabilistic transitions, and that uses stochastic thermodynamics. And that's
so, I mean, what he's laying out within that I mean, like, that's very specifically like Jan LeCun, the JEPA models, all of that, like, all of that is known that, like, operating within this probability space, and then, like, this actually, this dimensional probabilistic space is 100% possible, and you can actually compute in this space. The thing that I'm going to get into, and I won't lay out within my research within this, is that, and where I disagree overall within this, I don't think it's a hardware differentiation. Like, I don't think that, like, there's any difference necessary, and I'll dive deeper and deeper into that.
That's what we're pioneering, and we think it's the future of silicon, and we also think it's the future of AI hardware from first principles. And why is that? We think deep learning is going to struggle to capture the complexity of nature. A single forward pass is to get deeper and deeper in order to have enough computational complexity to replicate the distribution of the data set. And the distribution of the data set, has a lot of compute from nature in order to generate it. And if you have to capture everything in one forward pass, you need to make your model bigger and bigger, and then you're going to have more parameters. And then since you have more parameters, you need to kill their entropy, and you need more data. And so instead, if we basically use sampling, right? Use like test time compute scaling, right? As we're familiar, then you can have a higher complexity sort of transformation from your input to your output, and you can capture higher complexity and data and deeper into the tails of the distribution. The problem is, Monte Carlo sampling.
Yeah. So very specifically, like what he's outlining and that process, it's just like probabilistic sampling with Monte Carlo, right? Like this is like the magic box and the magic secret behind everything that everyone is betting on and banking on is like probabilistic sampling with Monte Carlo, like that, like Monte Carlo, like sampling can solve all of these things overall. And then I think they're right to pinpoint and to dive into like the flaws within that, but also to pinpoint and to narrow into probabilistic sampling with Monte Carlo, like all of the big money dice rolling is going on right here.
To do MCTS and so on, any kind of Monte Carlo algorithm kind of sucks on a classical computer. You need a pseudo random number generator. You have these sort of sequential walkers. They really suck. And then you got to make sure.
Like I'm gonna disagree again with them here. Like they don't understand how to do it mathematically properly. Like if you think and you are a company that is doing probabilistic sampling with Monte Carlo, and then you're running into issues with it on classical computers, and you want to get around that, and you're willing to pay, I can get around it.
sure this chain equilibrates to something called detailed balance, where the ratios are right, and then you get basically a Boltzmann distribution, and that's really fucking slow. You could try to parallelize it, but there's a limit, right? So basically, to run these algorithms and make them competitive in the algorithmic landscape, you need a new type of computer.
No.
And that's essentially what we're building, right? So our mission is to build the densest substrate for AI. And so, our mission is, with the philosophy stuff, I talk about increasing the wattage of civilization with EOC, and then with Extropic, we're trying to gain more intelligence per watt. And then put together, we have more intelligence for civilization. We're scaling essentially the scope and scale of intelligence in our universe. And so, Trevor and I basically hacked like 10 years ago as students at
Well, like their background, I don't care.
or energy-based models, right, which are programmable Boltzmann distributions. They're pretty clean because you parameterize this energy landscape. So essentially, we create this potential in which the electrons dance, and by just weighting, having this parameterized landscape, so we have a parametric shape. By just weighting, eventually, the red dots could represent electrons in this landscape that's we controlled with voltages. Eventually, it equilibrates and gives you a distribution. And then because it's an exponential, you can actually get all sorts of nice learning rules.
So this is like exactly what I've been saying for a long time. And then I'm not the only person that is researching this, and then they're not the only people that are into this, right? And then so I'll say like this up front and within this, like, and then so like a lot of people, I don't know, they have differing opinions of me, of my research, of everything overall. I don't really care overall, but the bottom line within that is that I do have a lot of people that reach out to me with my research, especially with regards towards commercialization of it. And then a lot of people want to patent around this. Like I feel comfortable that I have open sourced everything that I could possibly think of around machine learning as thermodynamics in disguise. So if this is your hypothesis, I am confident that I've open sourced everything that you could possibly research and develop, down to light-based computing, and running like literal light-based computing that is associated with this. So if your model and your hardware is anywhere and goes anywhere towards that, I've already open sourced it. Like, you have no patents. Your patents aren't valid.
The red dots could represent electrons in this landscape that's, we controlled with voltages. Eventually, it equilibrates and gives you a distribution. And then because it's an exponential, you can actually get all sorts of nice learning rules that don't necessarily require backprop, such as contrastive learning rules, and there's all sorts of learning rules like this, right? It's similar to like Geoffrey Hinton's forward algorithm. And so you could train this machine to do machine learning by contrastive learning, and we've done that with some small devices and some bigger ones.
I can prove this out across the board. Like I can prove this out. Here you go. Like here's demonstrations of their model here. Like, so like this is their model, right? So like this is they're gonna go into like how they have some patents, and they're gonna open source some stuff around it, and like so. The reason why I'm so big on open sourcing and not patenting anything around this, it's so like to me, none of this is owned, right? Like I don't own any of this. I don't care to be the discoverer of any of this. Like I don't care if I go down as like Christopher Columbus. I would rather not be in history books as anything related to like Christopher Columbus, related to any of this overall, right? But so to me, we're explorers and going through and then just mining these things out, like, and then it's just there and available to be mined, right? I look at this equation overall very simplistically and very straightforward for like all of my life, 100% of my life up until this very recent moments. when you dive deep into physics, philosophy, etc., there's a gap, like a gap in knowledge, and the gap of knowledge is too high. Once you get to like 96% of the way there, like how do you move forward? I don't know. There's too much of a knowledge gap, right? Too many unknowns, too many variables. You can't run enough simulations. Like, well, now you can. Now we can plug in missing variables. We can make assumptions, and I can do exactly what he just laid out here, utilizing Monte Carlo distribution and simulations. I can move past and actually make some breakthroughs with regards towards those things and within that. And then so within that, just that mining, everyone has access to the same tools and everyone is utilizing the same exact resources, right? So to me, it's not like a matter of like who's going to be and plant the flag first. Like I think all of these people that are like planting their flag into this are wasting their time flat out. Like I don't like up front, I don't care. I don't want to commercialize, patent a single thing around any of the anything related to like my quantum research, my quantum models, anything like that. It's 100% open source. It's all like 100% possible because of AI. Everyone has access to the same tools. None of it is patentable anyway because none of it would be discoverable without AI. No one, like not a single person that has discovered it could make that claim because I know exactly you're doing this, you're utilizing the same exact methods that I am in order to reach those conclusions, and you need AI in order to do it, and you've needed AI in order to do it. So it's not patentable overall. So let's not kid ourselves on any level there.
And essentially, neural nets came from energy-based models. They came from, looking at averages of layers of Boltzmann machines, right? That's what the 2024 Nobel Prize was for, and that's when deep learning really started. And so we're kind of going back, we're returned, we're going back to where neural nets came from and doing these primitives in hardware and software. In terms of applications, I don't have to explain what probabilistic inference can do. It could do most things. It's a superset of deep learning. There's all sorts of cool early day applications. And, year and a half ago, we posted our first experiment online. We got cooked pretty hard. It was good. But really for us, it was like, okay, can we even create a programmable electron diffusion device and show we can run basic algorithms on it, and how the hell would we program it? And basically our learnings from taking quantum computing tech, running it basically 100 times hotter, allowed us, this was like our breadboard prototype. So, we rented this lab in Canada, everything was rented, and we did some first experiments, and now we're kind of sitting on the paper, and we're gonna put it out basically after we launch our first silicon product. But the goal there is to open source a viable way to build this type of computing, that's maybe less commercially interesting, but that academia can take and run with. But
so I think that this is a cool project overall. I think it's cool. My opinion on it, very simplistically, is that the hardware aspect isn't necessary, right? That's just my flat out opinion, and where I diverge and disagree with them overall. I think that they're going down an interesting path, and they're going down a path that a lot of people are going down and testing. But to me, I think you can have and do exactly what they're doing and what they're talking about here on classical computers. And then so to me, I have get repositories like this. So this is Qubits Fractal Quantum Simulator. The Qubits repository provides a framework for simulating quantum-like systems on classical hardware using fractal-inspired dynamics. This project explores the transition from chaotic linear quantum states to stabilized discrete structures through entropy-driven perturbations. The resulting visualizations demonstrate how quantum-like behavior can emerge and stabilize in classical systems. Key features: fractal quantum state simulation, entropy-driven stabilization, visualizations, and hybrid quantum classical model. This is all open source, 100% MIT licensed. But so what this means is that, and I mean very simplistically and flat out, overall, here it is, right? All of it. My model and I kind of so. Up front, this gentleman, he's states like a Wolfram theory, right? And then and all of this is based off of Wolfram theory, which I agree with him 100%. And then and all of that 100%. Within Wolfram theory, the next level and like what people don't miss, like the basic level of understanding within that misses is that the hardware wouldn't be necessary in order to get to quantum computing if Wolfram's computational theory is true. If Wolfram's computational theory is true, then I should be able to do this. And then so that's why I run these types of experiments, right? I kind of just do it in reverse, and I have been playing around with these things in reverse. Like, okay, I'm a proponent of Wolfram's computational theory. I think it's true. So then let me just make and prove more and more aspects of it true, rather than trying to experimentally prove it all true. I can prove at this point that you don't need what they're going into within this, that like this is the a road that you can take, but it's the harder road, right? That like, I mean, to me, the bottom line within this, like the kind of what I'm getting into within my overall reaction to this is that like I don't think that the hardware aspect of this, any of this, is at all necessary.
Here's our first probabilistic chip. There was 3 probabilistic bits or 3 thermodynamic neurons, whatever you want to call them, a couple designs, and then the little snakes you see are like control lines to control the parameters, the tilt, and so on. That first chip, everything worked out. We have some cool experiments, and really it's like, if you had a different supply chain, you might want to do things in superconductors. Of course, like the problem is you have to cool it. Ideally, you could use a much smaller fridge, but it's not as dense as we like it, right? This chip is basically macroscopic. You could see the details like by the naked eye. And so what we had to do, the reason we gave a shit was that, people are like, there's like this crazy space-like race to have the most efficient or the biggest transformer possible. And our theory was like, if we open source it, then maybe the governments will race to build a crazy superconducting supercomputer to have the most energy efficient transformer. And so, we mapped how to break down a transformer and its operations into superconducting thermalization physics. And then we did some benchmarks. I think those lines are out of order. It's like the legend's messed up, but the problem, this is just simulations, right? It's you scaled to a freaking room-size computer of this type. It would be crazy, right? Like the energy efficiency gains are like insane. They're like 10 million X plus.
They speak in theoreticals within this as to open sourcing these things. Like when I hear those things, I like to open source those things that they, just so like it's not theoretical, right? So this notebook analyzed semantic topology and transformer attention patterns, key theoretical framework. It's loop energy, holonomy, and semantic rings. Essentially, everything that he's talking about within their thermodynamic transformer framework, and how you could utilize and treat the transformer model as thermodynamic learning. I take it a step further and prove that yes, it is based off of thermodynamics, but then the thermodynamics of it is topological in nature, and that's the missing element that they have there. So I prove their research true, and then also take it one step further and open source it.
Plus, right, 100 million X plus. So that's cool, but obviously it's not tractable because you got to like super cool it. And you wouldn't be able to put in your phone or something. And so basically, we had to figure out how to port this technology and what we learned to room temperature and in silicon in order to make sure we could deploy it at scale and mass manufacture it. And, like a year ago, put out this plot, and then we were manufacturing our chips. And then, as we was reported in Wired, we successfully created a bunch of new primitives in silicon. There's probabilistic bits. There's other silicon primitives in there. And basically, I'll talk about it, but we're going to give people access to this chip in a dev kit very soon. I'll get back to that in a second. I don't know if this is a movie, but you can see the probabilistic bit signal there. It's basically we control how much time the the signal spends in 0 or 1, and we have like pretty good control there and like sort of reliable manufacturing. That's kind of the hard part. And if you get your components right, then you can scale. Of course, like none of this matters if we can't scale it, right? And so not only do we have to scale the hardware, but we got to scale the models, right? And so how are we going to scale the hardware? So this is like, this is our game plan. So yeah, so
I think like companies that are existing like this that are putting out like this scaling like this probabilistic hardware that's fantastic, right? This is good. Like this is cool technology overall. Like like this you're going to see a lot of advancements in these areas overall. I think that like these guys are on the right track with this. Like, and I could see how this would get investor funding. Whether or not they'll actually be successful in like beating out traditional compute, I don't think it matters, right? Because of the argument that they put up front, which is, and the way that they frame it up front is very nice with regards towards what they're doing within their mission, right? Which is that Moore's law means that we need to find a solution, and then so like even if they're not successful, they're searching for the solution, right? So they get us closer to the successful solution. So like from a business model and making money perspective, like the tech pros are on the right track.
1,000x year over year, number of degrees of freedom. So we start off with 3 probabilistic neurons or probabilistic bits. We have 300 components, probabilistic degrees of freedom on the new chip, and then we're designing a chip that's coming out next year with in the order of millions, right? And so, yeah, we're scaling this. Thank you.
I'll never be a Steve Jobs. I'm just like I'm just gonna put that out there. Like I'll never be. I don't ever desire to be Steve Jobs, and then so I will never be.
So no tweeting this yet. Eyes only, please. No leaking. And you gotta also scale the algorithms, right? So there's a paper from Google called Denoising Recovery Likelihood. It's like chaining EBMs to replace diffusion models and using like 100 times less steps, right? And so basically we like supercharge that algorithm for our hardware. And so the next...
So I mean, that like that statement right there, right, is why like none of this is patentable, like flat out, like because it's like anything that you want to do within this, right? So like, I mean, like I think it's great overall, like not to knock these guys, right? I'm just like pointing this out as a real world situation, like flat out real world. That statement he just made, it's on video here, right? What's going to happen is that like in 2-3 years, if they're ever successful and they do like try to lean on their patents, Google's going to yank their patents, right? Because they flat out just admitted that they're basing it off of Google's algorithm within this, like, which is like, that's the point, right? Like, so no matter what you advance within this at this point, you're basing it and you're advancing it off of someone's base algorithm. You're advancing diffusion, you're advancing Monte Carlo, you're advancing transformers, RWKV, JEP, whatever it is, right? It's an already invented base framework. You're building on top of the framework, and you just say like you're supercharging DDM models. Like that's not patentable to you. Like you're like you don't own the algorithm.
Next slide, you're going to see 1,000th of this chip, this next chip. We simulated it running the algorithm, and you could basically do what we call denoising thermodynamic models in a way that's much more efficient. DDPM is like a diffusion model. The circles are running on GPU and the axes are running on our computer. Again, this is in simulation, but essentially it's if you run a cheap algorithm, it's 1,000x better. If you run an expensive algorithm, it's like 100 million x more energy efficient. And this is sort of the number of joules you need, how much energy per sample. And so you could have, more generation, more throughput in parallel, or overclock in time using more energy. But
cool overall, and it's cool like to talk about it in this context. But I mean overall to me, it's just introducing like what he talked about all throughout this, which is Monte Carlo sampling and diffusion, and then coupling them together, and then so like Monte Carlo sampling diffusion space, which cool.
But yeah, this was I think for CFAR, and so this is pretty exciting. Like we're designing this, and we're gonna have it next year from the manufacturer, and you could run some pretty interesting algorithms on it. And so, I'm really excited to finally be able to give people early access to the software and some of the hardware. So people ask us like when the dev kit will be ready and when they'll be able to like experiment with thermodynamic computers. And essentially it's this summer. So summer 2025. Yeah, let's go. And got the chip right here. So we're packaging it into a dev kit. And essentially you're going to be able to have it on your desk and just plug it in your computer with Ethernet and start hacking. And so, people thought it would take us 10 years or 20 years. They're dismissing us. And we were cooking. So I wouldn't sleep on this, okay? I just wouldn't sleep on this. And
I don't think people understand how easy, like, I mean, it's cool. Like they did the work, right? I'm not doing the work. I'm not putting it all together, but like we're at the point now where like, I mean, if you like, you can ideate, chips that are going to so this chip isn't going to compete with like Intel chips, right? But like it's like directly, but like this is two dudes essentially like that they created and they're ideating a chip that is like competing, right? Like so like prior to the 2020s, up from the 1970s until the 2020s, there was like less and less manufacturers, chip manufacturers, right? Up until there was like two, Intel and Taiwan manufacturers, and then like that's it, right? And then now you have like an explosion, like you have like Raspberry Pi type devices, and then all of these probabilistic thermal silicon type devices, and then all like AI GPUs, AI CPUs, like kind of like a plethora and an explosion of hardware options that are available, and then it's very unique niche industry that is worth chasing overall. Like to me, like with regards towards that again, it boils down to the Moore's law, right? The end of Moore's law. So then like the problem is the problem is that we're running into the Moore's law wall. So one of these models will take off and will be like the successful avenue forward and the successful way forward, and then whichever one of them becomes like the most dominant will be the most successful, but then everyone else is going to be left holding the bag, which is, I mean, why I don't know, I'm not I don't like to invest and be invested into these things overall, right? Like so that like at this point, like these all they do, like I'm assuming, and all they talk about is thermodynamic hardware, right? And thermo silicon hardware, and then so like kind of like my knocks against the framework, things like that are bad for them overall, right? It's bad for them, their pocket. It's bad for their mission, and they've made it their entire goal. Like that's why I very much like to stay agnostic in these things, and the money, the direct money and monetization of and from AI to me is like the last reason why I do my research overall, and I like that separation.
And if you want to start hacking with Thermo computers, email me, sign up for the dev kit on the website, and please email me. Like anybody in the SF hacker community, like we definitely want to get some dev kits out. The first dev kit, it's a toy. It's basically, you could do some toy models of what you want to do and scale up. But the next chip is serious, is the bigger brother, and we're going to keep scaling beyond that. And, this is like, for me, it's been like a really long journey through physics and 10 years through physics-based compute to derive from first principles where algorithms and computing is going. And we have a lot of conviction about this. And, seeing our thesis get proven out, at a theory and component level, experiments, and now benchmarks, it's been really validating, but it's really the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, no, like the framework overall is very validated at this point, right? And it's cool to see it more and more validated overall. And then so I think that I mean, it is the future. Everything that within this path is the future, but the bottom line to me, like the big thing within that future is that, so I saw what happened flat out with the internet and how that became closed off. And then what I do, like my goal within, like, I mean, flat out my goal within, like, my research, what I release, what I talk about, what I, like, my kind of drive within all of this is to make sure that that doesn't happen overall. And then so I think it's cool that people work on these things overall. I'm glad that that there's a lot of push forward. I hope that everyone keeps it in mind that, like, it's very easy to try to want to go towards the path of let me just file 24 patents on everything, but then, like, your patents, like like, it's not a good road, like, because it's not like you're not going to get challenged on it until you get challenged on it, and then you're going to lose that challenge, and then that's going to be very bad for you. You can't just go back in time from there, right? It's best to just, like, recognize for what it is, enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. To me, I'm an observer, right? That's flat out. Like, I'm an observer of these things. I'm not in it for profit. I'm not trying to patent anything. I'm not trying to corporatize anything, any part of it. I'm trying to observe and enjoy the ride, and it's been a cool physics ride, and I enjoy it overall. I've enjoyed this video overall as well. I enjoyed what these guys are doing. I look forward to playing around with their chip overall, and I thank you for having me react to this video. If you want me to react to videos more or react to things more overall, just let me know. If you like this type of content, please like, subscribe. Thank you very much.